Now that we've talked in general about investors and investments, let's get to the specifics of question 2 for Unit 8. In this case, we, the investors, use $70,000 to start a business. That's a flow from the investor into the business, the investment. After 1 year, the business makes $30,000. $30,000 flows from the investment, the business, back to us. 1 year later, however, the business loses $45,000. That $45,000 has to come out of our pocket. $45,000 flows from us to the business. The next two flows are $40,000 when the business makes that money, and $55,000 at the end of the 4th year when again the business makes money. Finally, at the end of the 4 years, the business is worth $30,000. That means we could sell it, and the money of $30,000 would go from the investment into our pockets. Here are the cash flows year by year. Notice that I've used a negative cash flow every time money flows from the business to the investor, and a positive cash flow, $45,000, in the case where the investor has to put more money in. Having talked about this as a problem about a business, however, we'll abstract and just think about the cash flows. We'll ask, what sort of investment is it that allows us to put $70,000 in, get $30,000 out, put $45,000 in, and so on, and end up with a final value of $30,000. The simplest way for us to evaluate an investment of this sort is to look at an equivalent savings account. That is, a savings account that allows us to make exactly the same cash flows as the one in the original problem. So we'll ask ourselves, what sort of a savings account is it that allows us to put $70,000 in to start, take out $30,000, put in $45,000, and so on, and end up with a savings account value of $30,000. From our point of view as investors, this savings account is exactly equivalent to the business. We don't care whether it's really a business or really a savings account. From our point of view, from the point of view of the cash flows, it's exactly identical. The big question is, what sort of a savings account would work this way? For example, could it be a savings account that earns 3% interest? Let's check. If we had a savings account that paid 3% interest and we put in $70,000, then at the end of 1 year, we'd have our $70,000 plus the 3% interest we earned. But at the end of the year, in order to keep the same cash flows as the business would have had, we need to take $30,000 out. Remember that the $30,000 is a cash flow from the investment to the investor. If the investment is a savings account, the $30,000 must be a withdrawal, money taken out of the savings account. That's why we used a negative over here, so that when we add on the cash flow, it will be subtracted from the balance. If we had a 3% savings account, the balance after we added 3% interest and took out the $30,000 would be $42,100. The balance after 1 more year would be $88,363. That's because we added 3% interest and put $45,000 in. If we continue in this way for 4 years, we'll have exactly the same cash flows as in the original business. $70,000 in, $30,000 out, $45,000 in, $40,000 out, and so on. Will we end up with a final value of $30,000? No, but we can adjust that by using goal-seek. We'll try to make the final amount be $30,000 by changing the interest rate. And here we have our answer. The business is exactly equivalent in terms of cash flow to a savings account that pays 13.54% interest. That's a great investment.